Daniel never thought his life would end up like this. A year ago, he was just another student trying to make ends meet. Rent was high, money was low, and his part-time job at the cafe barely covered food. Then came the interspecies housing program, an experiment started by Earth's government after first contact. Humans and aliens living together, learning from each other, proving peace was possible. Daniel applied because of the free rent. He didn't care much about galactic unity or cross-species understanding. All he wanted was a roof over his head without drowning in bills. But when his approval letter arrived, he felt something new. Nervousness. What if his roommate had fangs? What if they hated humans? What if they didn't even sleep at night? All those worries fell apart the first day he met Kira. She stood at the doorway of their small shared apartment, her frame tall and slender, her skin a pale shade of blue that shimmered faintly under the sun. Her hair looked like flowing strands of silver light, and her large eyes, glowing softly violet, seemed far too alive for someone so still. She smiled at him with a warmth he hadn't expected. "Hello," she said, her voice calm and melodic. "You are Daniel, yes?" Daniel swallowed, nodding. "Yeah, that's me." You're Kira?" "Yes." She tilted her head in a gesture that felt oddly graceful. "We will share this place. I am happy for this." Her English was nearly perfect, though each word carried a faint echo as if her voice had music built into it. Daniel felt his nerves ease, though not disappear. Living with another human was hard enough. Living with someone from another world felt impossible. The first 2 days passed better than Daniel expected. They shared chores. Kira insisted on helping with dishes, even though she didn't fully understand the concept of soap. They tried cooking together. Daniel nearly set the stove on fire, while Kira introduced him to a paste from her homeworld that smelled terrible, but tasted surprisingly sweet. At night, Daniel slept in his own room and Kira slept in hers. Everything seemed normal. But the third night changed everything. Daniel was half asleep, drifting in dreams, when his door creaked open. A soft blue glow filled the room, the faint light of Kira's skin. He blinked, confused. "Kira?" he whispered. She stepped inside, carrying her own blanket. Without saying much, she walked to his bed, pulled the blanket back, and slid in beside him. Daniel's eyes shot wide open. His heart raced. He sat up, nearly falling off the bed. Whoa, what are you doing?" Kira looked at him, calm as ever, already tucking the blanket around her shoulders. "Sharing the bed," she said softly. "It is crucial." Daniel's brain scrambled for words. "Crucial for what?" "This is my bed." Her violet eyes blinked slowly, as though she didn't understand his panic. "It is tradition. In my people's culture, when you share a home, you must also share warmth. Otherwise, there is no true companionship. We cannot be roommates, as you call it, if we do not rest together." Daniel's mouth went dry. He rubbed his face, trying to decide if he was dreaming. "Wait, you mean you're not joking?" Kira tilted her head again. "Joking? No, this is serious. To sleep apart is to say, I do not trust you. Do you not trust me, Daniel?" The question pierced deeper than he expected. Her voice wasn't accusing, but soft, almost vulnerable. I mean, I do trust you," Daniel stammered. "But humans, we don't usually share beds unless we're, close." "Close?" Kira repeated, frowning slightly. "You mean mates?" Daniel's face burned. "Yes, exactly. Sharing a bed is, personal, romantic." Kira's eyes widened a little, and then she laughed gently, a sound like wind chimes. "Oh, how strange. For us, it is not romantic. It is survival. It is how we show we accept each other. Without this, I cannot feel at ease." Daniel stared at her, heart pounding. He wanted to protest, to tell her this was insane. But the look in her glowing eyes stopped him. She wasn't smug. She wasn't teasing. She was serious. And there was a softness in her expression, almost like fear. Fear that if he rejected this, it would mean rejecting her. Daniel sighed, dragging a hand through his hair. "This is going to be complicated." Kira tilted her head back against the pillow, already settling in. "Complicated, perhaps, but necessary." He groaned, lying back down on the very edge of the bed, leaving as much distance between them as possible. "Fine, just don't kick me in your sleep." Her lips curved in a small smile. "I do not kick. You will see." Silence fell, broken only by the sound of their breathing. Daniel lay stiff, eyes staring at the ceiling, mind racing. He had signed up for free rent, not for this. But as the minutes passed, something strange happened. The room, usually cold, felt warmer. The tension in his chest eased. And though he didn't want to admit it, part of him felt safe. When he finally drifted into sleep, he realized he hadn't felt that kind of safety in years. The next morning, Daniel woke up slowly, half expecting the strange memory of the night before to fade away like a dream. But it hadn't. Kira was still there. She lay on her side, her silver hair spilling across the pillow, her faint blue glow making the room feel like dawn had come early. Her eyes were closed, her breathing soft and steady. She looked so calm, almost fragile, as if she were part of a painting. Daniel, however, felt anything but calm. He had spent most of the night lying stiff on the far edge of the mattress, afraid of moving an inch. At some point, exhaustion had dragged him into sleep, but now he was back in panic mode. He whispered to himself, "This can't be real. I can't do this every night." Kira stirred then, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment, her glowing gaze met his, and she smiled softly. "Good morning, Daniel." Daniel froze. Morning." She sat up gracefully, folding her blanket around her shoulders. "I slept well." "Thank you." He raised an eyebrow. "Thank me? For what?" "For not rejecting me." Her voice was quiet but sincere. "If you had pushed me away, it would have meant you did not accept me. That would have been painful." Daniel rubbed his face. "Kira, listen. I don't want to hurt you. But you've got to understand, humans don't usually do this. It's personal. It's not just about trust for us." Kira tilted her head, studying him as though he were the alien. "But is it not better to sleep knowing someone is beside you? To feel warmth and safety? Why should that be wrong?" Daniel opened his mouth, then shut it again. He wanted to argue, but part of him couldn't. He remembered the strange comfort he had felt, the warmth that had lulled him into deeper rest than he'd had in weeks. He hated to admit it, but she had a point. Still, he groaned. "I don't know if I can get used to this." Kira smiled faintly as if she already knew the answer. That day, things were awkward. Daniel tried to act normal, but every time he passed Kira in the kitchen or the living room, he couldn't shake the memory of her lying next to him. He burned his eggs at breakfast. He spilled coffee on his shirt. And worst of all, she noticed. "You are unsettled," she said calmly, watching him from the couch as he scrubbed at the coffee stain. "No kidding," he muttered. "You think too much," she continued. "On my world, when two share a dwelling, bed sharing begins on the first night. It is not questioned. It is simply done. But you humans always ask why, always resist why." Daniel frowned, looking at her. "Because we're complicated. We have boundaries. We like our space. It doesn't mean we don't trust people, it just means we value privacy." "Privacy," Kira repeated, tasting the word as if it were strange fruit. "So you fear being close?" "Not fear," Daniel argued, "just careful." Kira said nothing more. She simply watched him with those calm violet eyes that always seemed to see deeper than he wanted. That night, Daniel tried to lock his door. It wasn't because he hated her. It was because he wanted one normal night. One night to stretch out without glowing aliens beside him. But at midnight, the door clicked open. Kira stood there holding her blanket again. Her expression wasn't angry. It was quiet, almost sad. "You locked me out," she said softly. Daniel sat up, guilt flooding him. "Kira, I needed space. Just one night." Her voice trembled barely. "On my world, to lock someone away from your resting place means you do not wish for their presence in your life. It is rejection. Do you truly reject me?" The words hit him hard. He hadn't thought of it that way. To him, it was a locked door. To her, it was betrayal. He rubbed his face, sighing. "No, I don't reject you. I'm not used to this. Humans are different. But I'm trying." Kira studied him, searching his face. Then she nodded slowly. Without another word, she climbed into bed again, curling under her blanket. Daniel lay back, staring at the ceiling. He didn't know what scared him more, the idea of getting used to this or the idea that maybe he already was. The following days became a rhythm. They cooked together. They studied together. Kira often asked endless questions about human culture, from why people liked ice cream to why humans feared the dark. And every night she came to his bed. At first, Daniel stayed stiff, keeping his distance. But little by little, the tension eased. He found himself sleeping better, His nightmares, the ones he never admitted he had, faded when she was near. And sometimes when he woke in the middle of the night, he realized she was watching him, not in a creepy way, but in a quiet, protective way, like she was making sure he was safe. It made something stir in his chest, something he didn't want to name. One evening after dinner, Daniel finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind. Kira, why is this so important to you, really? Not just tradition. What does it mean to you? She grew still, her violet eyes dimming. For the first time, she looked uncertain. Because, she whispered, I have never had someone to share a bed with. Not truly. On my world, I was always different. I was too curious, too strange. Others kept their distance. When I came to Earth, I feared the same. But when you did not push me away that first night, I felt something I have never felt before. Her voice wavered. I felt accepted. Daniel's chest tightened. He hadn't expected that answer. He hadn't expected her honesty or the quiet pain in her words. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Finally, he nodded, his voice low. Then, I guess I'll just have to get used to it. Kira smiled then. A real smile, brighter than he'd ever seen. And for the first time, Daniel smiled back without hesitation. Days turned into weeks and Daniel's life slowly changed. He didn't even notice at first, but the little things added up. His mornings no longer felt heavy, his sleep was deeper, and the constant edge of loneliness he used to carry seemed lighter now. Kira had become part of his routine, like coffee in the morning or brushing his teeth at night. She asked questions about everything: why humans wore shoes indoors, why they covered their mouths when they laughed, why people said good night before sleeping when they would see each other again in the morning. Daniel often teased her about her endless curiosity, but secretly, he enjoyed it. He liked explaining, liked watching her eyes widen with wonder, like a child discovering the world. But sometimes, the world outside their apartment wasn't as kind. One afternoon, Daniel invited a couple of his classmates over to study. They sat in the living room, books and laptops scattered around. Kira hovered nearby, offering drinks and quietly observing. She always looked fascinated when humans gathered together. Guys, Daniel introduced nervously. This is Kira, my roommate. His friends exchanged awkward smiles. Wow, one of them muttered. You weren't kidding. Alien roommate, that's wild. Kira bowed her head politely. Hello, I am pleased to meet Daniel's friends. They nodded but didn't say much more. Throughout the study session, Daniel noticed the way they kept glancing at her when they thought she wasn't looking. He noticed how stiff the air felt, how they whispered when she stepped into the kitchen. Later, after his friends left, Daniel found Kira sitting silently on the couch, her blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Her glowing eyes were dim. You're quiet, he said gently. She looked at him, her voice soft. They do not accept me. Daniel sighed, sitting beside her. They're just not used to it. Most people haven't even spoken to someone from another world. Give it time, Kira shook her head. It is the same everywhere. My people see me as strange. Your people see me as strange. Always, I am the one apart. Her words sank deep into Daniel's chest. He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. She was right. He'd seen it in his friend's eyes. Hesitation, fear, distance. Without thinking, he reached out and touched her hand. Her skin was cool, almost like water under moonlight. Not everyone, he said quietly. Not me. For a moment, she looked at his hand holding hers, then up at his face. A small smile appeared, fragile but real. That night, as always, she came to his bed, but this time Daniel didn't stay on the edge. When she curled under her blanket beside him, he let himself relax closer, not touching but not pulling away either. He realized something as he lay there listening to her breathing. The bed no longer felt like his. It felt like theirs. And strangely, he didn't hate it. The real test came a few days later. Daniel's mother called. She wanted to visit to see how he was living. He hesitated, thinking about Kira, but he couldn't say no. His mom was stubborn, and she would come whether he liked it or not. When the day arrived, Kira insisted on helping clean. She polished the table, wiped the counters, and even tried to fold the laundry, though she ended up tangling half the shirts. Daniel chuckled. Relax, Kira, my mom's not going to care if the place is perfect. She is your family, Kira said seriously. Her opinion matters. If she dislikes me, you will suffer. Daniel blinked at her words, surprised by how much thought she had put into it. You don't have to worry, she's complicated, but she'll try. When his mom arrived, Daniel could feel the tension immediately. His mother smiled politely when introduced to Kira, but her eyes betrayed shock and discomfort. So, his mom said after an awkward silence, you and Kira share this apartment? Yes, Daniel said. His mom nodded slowly. And you're comfortable with that? Daniel frowned. Why wouldn't I be? Kira stayed quiet, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes lowered. Daniel hated how small she looked in that moment, like she was bracing for rejection. Dinner was uneasy. His mom asked safe questions, where Kira came from, what she studied, what food she liked. Kira answered politely, but Daniel could feel the distance between them. After his mom left, Kira turned to him. She does not want me here. Daniel shook his head. She just doesn't understand yet. You've got to give her time. Kira's voice cracked. Time, I always wait. I always hope. And still I remain the outsider. Daniel's chest ached. He wanted to promise her everything would change, but he knew words alone weren't enough. So that night when she came to bed, Daniel didn't stay distant. He shifted closer, letting their shoulders touch under the blanket. Kira stiffened at first, then slowly relaxed, her breath steadying. For the first time, Daniel whispered into the dark, You're not an outsider here. Not with me. Her eyes glowed faintly and she whispered back, Then this place, it is home. Days later, Daniel noticed something even stranger. He wasn't just getting used to her presence, he was starting to need it. When she stayed up late one night studying alone in the living room, Daniel tried to sleep by himself. He tossed and turned, restless, the room feeling cold and hollow. Finally, he gave up and walked out. Kira looked up from her book. You cannot sleep? He scratched his head awkwardly. Not without you, apparently. Her smile was soft, but her eyes shone bright with emotion. She closed her book and followed him back to the bedroom. That night, when they lay side by side, Daniel realized the truth. Somewhere along the way, her tradition had become his comfort, and it scared him, because it meant she was no longer just a roommate. She was something more. Daniel's life had become a quiet rhythm, one he hadn't expected but had grown to rely on. Mornings with Kira making tea, evenings spent answering her endless questions, nights where sleep came easier because she was near. But with comfort came something else. Attention. At the university, people had started to whisper. Some classmates teased him with smirks and comments. So Daniel, how's it like living with your alien girlfriend? Others kept their distance, unsure if he was strange or brave. Daniel hated it. Not because of Kira, but because the world didn't understand. To them, she was a curiosity, a rumor, something less than human. But to him, she was just Kira. One afternoon, he returned home to find her sitting quietly at the window. Her blanket was around her shoulders, her silver hair glowing in the sunlight. She didn't look up when he entered. You're quiet, he said softly. She spoke without turning. I heard the voices. Daniel froze. Voices? Your classmates. They laughed. They spoke of us. I heard it when I walked past the hall. His stomach twisted. He knew exactly what she meant. They're idiots. Don't listen to them. Her hands clenched the blanket tighter. On my world, I was always strange. Here, I thought it would be different. But still, I am a joke. Daniel walked over, kneeling beside her. He wanted to tell her it didn't matter, that their words couldn't touch what they had. But looking into her eyes, he saw the pain too clearly. She wasn't just hurt by strangers, she was haunted by a lifetime of rejection. You're not a joke, he said firmly. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years. Her eyes widened, glowing brighter. For a moment, silence hung heavy between them. Daniel felt his heart race, realizing how much he meant those words. That night, when she came to bed, the space between them felt smaller. Daniel found himself listening to her breathing, noticing the gentle rise and fall of her chest, the faint hum her body gave off like a quiet song. He wanted to ask her what it meant, wanted to understand everything about her, but he was afraid. Afraid of what he was starting to feel, because this wasn't supposed to happen. She was his roommate, nothing more, and yet, when she whispered softly in the dark, Daniel, thank you for not locking me out again. He felt something sharp and tender twist inside him. The days continued, but the tension grew, not between them, but inside Daniel. One evening they went shopping together. The store was crowded, full of humans who stared as soon as Kira entered. Some tried to be polite, others openly whispered. Daniel felt anger rising in him every time he caught a stare. Kira, however, moved gracefully, ignoring them. She picked up fruits and turned them over curiously, asking Daniel what each one was. "This one?" she asked, holding up a pineapple. That's a pineapple. Spiky outside, sweet inside," he explained. "Like some humans," she said simply, making him laugh. But the laughter died when two young men walked past, snickering. "Man, look at that. He's really walking around with her. Can't even get a human girl." Daniel's fists clenched. His face burned with anger. He wanted to fight, to yell, to prove them wrong. But Kira touched his arm lightly. "Do not," she whispered. "They do not matter." "They do matter," he hissed. "They can't just—" "Daniel." Her voice was calm but firm. "If you fight, I am shamed more." "Let it go." Her strength amazed him. She had spent her life carrying the weight of rejection, and still she held herself tall. Meanwhile, he was boiling inside. When they returned home, Daniel finally broke. "Why don't you ever stand up to them? Why do you just take it?" Kira folded her blanket around her, her expression unreadable. "Because I am used to it, and because I have something now I never had before. I have you. That is enough." His anger melted at her words, but guilt took its place. She thought he was enough. Yet he still hadn't told her the truth about what he was feeling. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He turned on his side, watching her faint glow in the dark. "Kira," he whispered. She stirred slightly. "Yes, do you ever regret coming here? To Earth?" Her eyes opened, glowing dimly in the night. "Sometimes. When I hear the whispers, when I feel the stares. But then I look at you and I do not regret. You are my reason now." Daniel's heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. He wanted to say something, anything, to tell her what she meant to him. But the words stuck in his throat. He was afraid of ruining what they had, afraid of crossing a line, so instead he whispered, "I'm glad you're here," and Kira smiled softly, her eyes closing again. The next day brought something unexpected. Daniel's professor approached him after class. "Daniel, a word?" He nodded nervously. The professor cleared his throat. "It has come to our attention that your living situation has caused some distractions. There are concerns from parents and students. Perhaps it would be better for the program if housing arrangements were adjusted." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Adjusted? You mean—" "I mean reassigned," the professor said carefully. "Perhaps your alien roommate would do better with another host. Someone less conflicted." Daniel's hands trembled. "No, she stays with me." The professor frowned. "Daniel, this is bigger than you. Think about her. She might be happier elsewhere." But Daniel knew that wasn't true. He had seen the way she looked at him, the way she clung to their nightly tradition. He knew what it meant to her, and he knew what it had come to mean to him. "No," Daniel said firmly. "She's staying." The professor sighed but didn't argue. "Very well. But understand, you are making things harder for both of you." Daniel walked home with fire in his chest. Harder maybe, but worth it. That night he didn't wait for her to come to bed. Instead, he called her name softly, and when she entered, he made room for her without hesitation. She smiled gently, settling beside him. Daniel took a deep breath, his voice low but steady. "Kira, no matter what anyone says, no matter how hard this gets, I want you here. With me." Her glowing eyes widened, shining like stars. She whispered, almost trembling, "Then I am no longer an outsider. I am chosen." Daniel swallowed hard, his chest aching with emotions he could no longer deny. He didn't say the word love, not yet. But in that moment he knew the truth. His alien roommate was no longer just tradition, no longer just a friend. She was his home. The program that had once felt like a gift now began to feel like a cage. Rumors spread faster than truth. Daniel noticed more stares in the hallways, more whispers behind his back. It wasn't just classmates anymore. It was teachers, neighbors, even strangers on the street. Some looked at him with pity, others with disgust. Few dared to speak directly, but Daniel could feel it everywhere, like a shadow that followed them both. Kira noticed too. She always noticed. One evening, as they sat together at the table eating noodles, she put down her fork and looked at him. Her glowing violet eyes were soft but serious. "Daniel, I am a burden to you." The word struck him like a knife. "What? No, you're not." "I hear them," she continued quietly. "The whispers. The laughter. They think less of you because of me. Daniel leaned forward, shaking his head. Kira, listen to me. I don't care what they think. You're not a burden. He stopped himself before saying too much. You're important to me. She studied him as if weighing the truth in his words. Then she smiled faintly, though her eyes still carried sadness. Important, she repeated like she was holding the word close. But the pressure only grew. One morning, an official from the housing program came by. She was polite, her voice gentle, but her words were sharp. Mr. Daniels, we've had complaints. Some parents feel uncomfortable with their children attending classes with unconventional arrangements. Daniel folded his arms. Unconventional? You mean Kira? The official cleared her throat. We only wish to avoid conflict. Perhaps she could be relocated, paired with another human host. Someone older, more prepared. Daniel felt his chest tighten. No, she stays with me, the woman sighed. This isn't about you. This is about what's best for her. But Daniel knew that wasn't true. He knew what she needed. He had seen it in the way she curled beside him at night, in the way her voice softened when she said home. If they took her away, it would break her. It's also about what's best for me, Daniel said firmly, and what's best for us. She stays. The woman left, but her warning echoed in the silence. This wasn't the end. That night, Daniel told Kira everything. She listened quietly, her blanket wrapped around her like armor. They want to separate us, he said, anger lacing his voice. Her eyes dimmed. I knew this would come. Daniel frowned. You knew? She nodded slowly. It always comes. On my world, I was sent away many times. Different groups, different houses. Always they decided I did not belong. I thought here it would be different. Daniel's heart ached. He hated the way she said it. Not with bitterness, but with quiet acceptance, like someone used to pain. He reached out, taking her hand. I won't let them take you away. Not this time. For a moment, her lips trembled and her voice broke. Do you mean it, truly? He tightened his grip. Yes, I promise. Her glowing eyes filled with something he couldn't name, something fragile and beautiful. She whispered, Then no matter what happens, I am not afraid. Still, the fear wasn't gone. Daniel carried it with him every day. He feared opening the door to find officials waiting. He feared waking up and finding her gone. The thought alone was unbearable, and yet through the fear their bond grew stronger. Kira laughed more easily now. She tried new foods, even though most made her wrinkle her nose. She sat beside him when he studied, asking endless questions about Earth's history, and every night she came to his bed. But something had changed. Daniel no longer lay on the edge. He no longer pretended it was just tradition. He let himself relax beside her, shoulders touching, warmth shared. Sometimes, in the quiet hours, their hands brushed under the blanket. Neither pulled away. One night, Daniel woke to find her asleep with her head resting lightly against his shoulder. He froze, afraid to move, but then slowly smiled. It felt natural, like it was always meant to be this way. The turning point came when Daniel's mother called again. Daniel, she said over the phone, I've been hearing things. People say you're too close to that alien. This could ruin your future. Please think carefully. Daniel clenched the phone tightly. Mom, I don't care about what people say. Kira's not just some alien. She's my... He stopped, words catching in his throat. Your what? His mother pressed. Daniel hesitated, then answered quietly. She's my family. There was silence on the line. His mother didn't argue further, but Daniel knew she didn't understand. Maybe she never would. When he hung up, Kira was standing in the doorway watching him. You called me family, she whispered. Daniel swallowed hard. Yeah, I guess I did. Her eyes glowed brighter and she stepped closer. On my world, to be called family by choice is the greatest bond. Stronger than blood. Stronger than tradition. It means forever. His chest tightened. He hadn't realized how much the word meant to her. But now looking at her, he understood, and he realized something else too. He didn't just see her as family. He felt something deeper, something terrifying and wonderful. But he wasn't ready to say it. Not yet. That night, as they lay together, Kira whispered softly, Daniel, if they take me away, will you fight for me? He turned toward her, their faces inches apart. Her glowing eyes reflected all the fear and hope she carried. Yes, he said firmly. I'll fight. I'll fight for you, Kira. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Then I'm safe. And for the first time, Daniel understood. This wasn't just about tradition or comfort or survival. This was about trust. This was about love. Even if neither of them had said the word yet, and he knew with certainty that nothing could make him give her up. The warning came sooner than Daniel expected. It was a rainy morning, the kind where the sky looked heavy and gray, and the world felt too quiet. Daniel was still half asleep when a sharp knock echoed at the door. Kira, already awake, stiffened. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. "They are here," she whispered. Daniel's stomach sank. He opened the door to find two officials standing outside. One human, one alien. Both wore the emblem of the interspecies program. Their faces were calm, professional, but their presence felt like a storm. "Mr. Daniels," the human official said, "we've come to escort Kira to a new placement." Daniel's hand tightened on the door. "No, she's staying here." The alien official, tall and insectoid with clicking mandibles, stepped forward. "This decision is final. Concerns have been raised about your closeness. The program cannot allow emotional compromise." Daniel felt his chest burn with anger. "She's not a project. She's not a lab rat you can move around. She's my—" He stopped, glancing back at Kira. She stood frozen, her blanket clutched tightly in her hands. "She's my family." The human official sighed as though she'd heard this before. "That may be how you feel, but it is not the arrangement. Please step aside." "No," Daniel said. His voice shook, but his feet refused to move. "You're not taking her." The officials pushed gently but firmly past him. Kira backed away, her glowing eyes wide with fear. Daniel jumped in front of her, arms spread. "Leave her alone." The insectoid official clicked angrily. "Do not interfere, human. This is for the good of both species, the good of who?" Daniel snapped. "You don't even care what she wants." For the first time, Kira spoke. Her voice trembled but carried strength. "I will not go. Daniel is my bond. To separate us is wrong." Her words seemed to shake the officials, but only for a moment. The human woman said softly, "Kira, it's not your choice." Kira's hands shook. She looked at Daniel, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Daniel." He stepped closer, taking her hand. "I promised you, remember? I'll fight for you." Something inside her broke then, not in despair, but in release. She tightened her grip, holding on to him as if he were her anchor in a storm. The officials reached out, but Daniel shoved their hands away. His voice rose, louder than he thought possible. "She's not leaving. If you want her gone, you'll have to drag me too." The officials froze, taken aback. The human woman frowned. "You don't understand what you're risking, Daniel. Your education, your record, even your future, it could all be ruined." "I don't care about any of that," Daniel said fiercely. "All I care about is her." Kira gasped softly, her eyes glowing brighter. It wasn't just shock, it was something deeper. Hope. The insectoid official hissed, mandibles clicking in frustration. Emotional weakness. This is exactly why such bonds are forbidden. But the human woman hesitated. She looked between Daniel and Kira, seeing the way they clung to each other. Slowly her expression softened. "Perhaps we should report back first," she murmured to her partner. "The bond is stronger than anticipated." The insectoid growled, clearly displeased, but after a tense silence both officials withdrew. "Very well. For now." When the door finally closed, Daniel collapsed into the chair, his whole body shaking. Kira knelt beside him, her hands trembling as they touched his arm. "You meant it," she whispered. Every word. Daniel met her eyes. "Of course I did." That night they didn't just lie side by side. For the first time, Daniel didn't hesitate to turn toward her. Kira's silver hair brushed against his cheek as she nestled close. Her voice was soft, almost like a song. "On my world," she whispered, "when someone stands against the stars for you, they are no longer just a companion. They are chosen." Daniel's heart pounded. He didn't know what to say. Words felt too small. But when he wrapped his arms around her, he felt her relax completely, as though the fear of the day had finally melted away. And in that moment, Daniel understood. This wasn't just about comfort or tradition anymore. This was love, even if neither of them had dared to name it yet. But peace didn't last long. The next few days, the tension grew. Rumors spread further. Students whispered behind Daniel's back more than ever, some mocking, some cruel. Teachers gave him strange looks as though waiting for him to fail. At night, Kira grew restless. She clung to him more tightly in her sleep, murmuring in her alien tongue when nightmares came. Daniel held her through them, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. He wanted to believe they were safe now. But deep down, he knew the officials would return, and next time they might not leave so easily. One evening, Daniel found Kira standing at the window, staring up at the stars. Her silver hair shimmered under the moonlight, her glowing eyes reflecting sorrow. "You're thinking about your home," Daniel said softly. She nodded. "Yes, I wonder if they miss me, or if they are glad I am gone." Daniel's chest tightened. "If they don't miss you, that's their loss." "I'm glad you're here," she turned to him, eyes glowing brighter. "Even if it ruins your life?" He walked up, standing beside her. "Kira, my life without you wouldn't mean anything. You're the best part of it." Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she reached out, placing her glowing hand gently against his cheek. The warmth of her touch spread through him, steady and strong. For the first time, Daniel realized he wasn't afraid anymore. Not of the whispers, not of the officials, not of the future. Because as long as she was beside him, he had everything he needed. That night, before sleep claimed them, Kira whispered something she had never said before. "Daniel, you are my chosen. My only." His heart raced, but he whispered back, "And you're mine." She smiled, her eyes glowing like twin stars. "Then no power in the galaxy can break us apart." Daniel believed her, and in that quiet, fragile moment, he knew they were ready. No matter what storm came next, the storm finally came. It was late at night, the world outside heavy with silence, when Daniel awoke to the sound of fists pounding on the door. His heart raced. He already knew who it was. Kira stirred beside him, her glowing eyes snapping open. She listened for only a second before whispering, "They've come again." Daniel jumped out of bed. "Stay behind me," but Kira shook her head. "No, this time I stand with you." The pounding grew louder. Then the door burst open and the officials stepped inside, 3 this time, not 2. The insectoid alien from before, the human woman, and another armored officer. Their faces carried no patience now. "Enough," the armored one barked. "This arrangement is over. The alien comes with us tonight." Kira grabbed Daniel's hand tightly, her whole body trembling. "Daniel." He squeezed her hand back, refusing to let go. "No, you're not taking her." The insectoid hissed, mandibles clicking. "Do not resist. You risk punishment." Daniel's voice rose, stronger than ever before. "I don't care what punishment you give me. I won't let you take her. She belongs here, with me." The human woman hesitated, her eyes flicking toward the way Kira clung to Daniel. Something in her expression softened again. But the armored officer stepped forward, grabbing Daniel's arm. Kira cried out, "No, don't touch him." Daniel struggled, fury burning inside him. "Let me go." He twisted, forcing himself between the officer and Kira. His voice cracked with desperation. "She's not just my roommate. She's my family. She's my life." Kira's glowing eyes widened, filled with tears. She pressed against his back as if his body was her shield. The insectoid sneered. "Pathetic. Humans are weak. You let emotions blind you." Daniel glared at him. "If protecting someone I love makes me weak, then fine, I'll be weak. But I won't abandon her." The words hung heavy in the air. Kira gasped softly. She had heard the word, love. The armored officer froze. The human woman whispered almost to herself, "Love." Kira slowly stepped out from behind Daniel, her blanket still clutched in one hand, but her voice steady now. "On my world, to be chosen, to be loved. It is the highest vow. Stronger than law, stronger than fear." Her glowing eyes burned bright as stars as she looked at the officials. "Daniel is my chosen, and I am his. You cannot break this." The room filled with silence. For the first time, the officials seemed uncertain. The insectoid hissed, but the human woman raised her hand to stop him. "This bond, it may be rare, but perhaps it is what the program was meant to find," she said softly. "Not just tolerance, but trust. Not just peace, but love." The armored officer scowled, but didn't argue. At last, he stepped back. "Very well. But understand this, if you claim such a bond, you will be judged by it. Fail, and you both will suffer the consequences." Daniel pulled Kira close. "Then we'll face whatever comes. Together." The officials exchanged glances, then turned and left, the door closing behind them. For a long time, Silence filled the small room. Daniel's chest heaved with adrenaline, but he didn't let go of Kira. She pressed against him, her body trembling, tears shining in her glowing eyes. "You said it," she whispered. "You said love." Daniel's heart pounded, but he didn't look away. "Because it's true. I love you, Kira. I don't care what anyone thinks. I don't care what it costs me. I love you." Her lips trembled. Then she threw her arms around him, holding him as if she would never let go. "And I love you. From the moment you held my hand and called me family, I have loved you." Daniel closed his eyes, holding her tighter. In that moment, the world outside didn't matter. The whispers, the stares, the threats, they were nothing compared to this. From that night forward, everything changed. The program no longer tried to move Kira. Instead, officials began to watch closely, recording their interactions as if their bond was some great discovery. Maybe it was. Daniel didn't care. What mattered was that Kira stayed. Every day they grew closer. They laughed over shared meals, studied side by side, and faced the cruel whispers of others with quiet strength. And every night they lay together in the same bed, not out of tradition but out of choice, out of love. Kira would sometimes whisper in her alien tongue before sleep. Words Daniel didn't fully understand, but he knew their meaning. Promises, vows, forever. One evening, months later, Daniel found Kira at the window again, staring at the stars, thinking of home.